Hey, welcome back, my friends. My name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn a Title Podcast. When you become a parent, you do not get an owner manual. And there are sometimes you face things that you realize you have no idea how to deal with. And one of those things, and something that I've been on both sides of, is when your kids suck at something. They're just really bad at the thing they're currently attempting to do. You know, it could be academics. Like when I was little, I was a terrible speller. It could be sports. And as a parent, I have dealt with this on both sides. My kids being really good at something, naturally gifted, and being really bad at something, and then being really bad at something and eventually becoming really good at it. And so my goal today is to help you work your way through that process so it's not frustrating, so that you know what to say, and help your kids get to the other side of I suck. The first time, or the big time this happened, my youngest daughter, or my middle daughter, she started playing soccer. Now, most kids, they're, little 5-year-olds that run around the field, and they learn from a young age, and they make their way through these transitions, and maybe they go to play high school, maybe even college. My daughter goes to a small Christian school. There's only a couple hundred students, and they had never had a soccer team. 3 years ago, they announced, hey, we're having the soccer team. Anybody interested? And so some of the girls that played basketball, some of the girls that played volleyball, some of the cheerleaders, they signed up literally not knowing the rules, probably never having even watched an entire game. And you can imagine the season they had that first year. It was everything you could imagine. They got mercied 2 or 3 times, which means they lost by more than 8. They called the game. They didn't know the difference between offsides and a field goal. Like they did not know how to play soccer. It was rough. We would go and the team would score 8 points in the first half. It was just hard. And fast forward this year, she's 3 years in, and they just mercied a team for the first time. They're winning. They're passing. They are staying on sides. They're not touching the ball with their hands. They are successfully playing soccer competitively, and it's awesome. Like, it's been so much fun to watch. And as I look back of how I dealt with those emotions of failure and, the period of suck, I want to be able to give you some of those things that I've learned along the way. So one, when your kid is really bad at something, and it's something they want to be good at, sometimes your kids are bad at something and they don't care, and it was something they were forced to do. Like my son, like me, is bad at spelling. He doesn't want to be good at spelling. And one of the things I was able to do is to encourage him that, hey, this is part of your academics, and I need you to work hard. But your effort doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get an A. But you're going to put in some work. You're going to study. We're going to read the words. We're going to write them out. And at the end of the day, you might get a B or maybe even a C in spelling. And that's okay, because we have machines that do us for us, right? We have AI now. We have computers. Don't sweat it. I want you to work hard, but this doesn't matter. Now, that was a different story with my daughter, who wanted to be good at soccer, and she wasn't. So in those days where she got mercied, the conversations were much more focused on the effort they put in, the individual plays, the work they put in. When your kids get beat by a much better team, sometimes it's easy to try to make excuses like, if the refs hadn't done this. Man, don't do that. Let them know that they were beat by a better team. You do not know how to play soccer. Put it in perspective. You've played soccer a total of 10 hours before your first game. Would you expect to be good at anything in 10 hours? Be very honest with them, and then encourage their effort, not their outcomes. I think that's big in life. We can't control a lot of the things in life, but we can control our effort. And so to preach that, the effort is what matters for the most part. Now, I think in school, that's a really important lesson. At some point, the results do matter, right? Being a winner in life gets you ahead. And you do have to let them know that they should be striving towards winning. And when I say winning, just mean successful, accomplishing the things they set out for. Because I think sometimes they get the message like, effort is good, just put in hard work. Well, if you put in hard work but don't turn in your college report, they're not going to give you a grade and you won't graduate. If you don't graduate, you wasted all that money on that degree. So at some point, we don't want to discourage success. We don't want to discourage winning. But while they're on the track to that, you have to encourage the effort with the goal of eventually succeeding. And I think you could either go 2 ways. One, you could be super competitive and be hard on somebody. And when I played basketball in high school, and one of my best friend's dad, he would yell the entire game. he was coaching from the sidelines. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing hearing him yell at his son. Nothing was good enough. He was never fast enough. He could have always done something better. It was terrible. But on the other side, there's people like when I played basketball, they didn't know what double dribble was. They were just there, and they were always encouraging. Well, sometimes the message they need to hear is, did you give it your all? Did you lose today because you gave it your all? Because, you didn't box out a single time in basketball, or you didn't, follow your shot after you shot. Like there's all these things. So it's okay to be critical of your kids, but it has to be on their effort, not the outcome, because they can control their effort. I think it's so important that is the mind frame when your kids are sucking, that you focus on their effort. Focus on what's reality. They get beat by a much better team. They lost because the team was much better. And then what did you do? What did they do? Why did they win? What things were they doing consistently? And then help them see that they can learn from their failures. I think that's another great, reason to lose, is so that you can see why, and then you can change it. Something that we don't do good, that I should say that I haven't done well, is I share my highlight reel with my kids. When I talk about my past, it's really easy to go, oh, we did this. Like, I won a national championship, or I won a state championship. But we don't tell them about our failures. I was playing in a league championship game, and I fouled the team, and we were down by 1 with 1 second left. I fouled the guy, and he made 2 free throws to win the game, and we came in second place. I did that. I still remember that. I can remember it to this day. He went down the middle. I was a guard. I reached in as he went to shot. I fouled him as I was shooting. I was trying to foul him hard enough that he couldn't make it, which I was successful. And then he made both free throws, and we lost the game with a second left. Man, that was probably a more powerful lesson than winning. I don't know if I would remember any of the plays if we had won, but that loss made me go back, well, how do we make sure the game doesn't go down to 1 point with 1 second left? I think those things are really important. Something that can be challenging is when your kid is naturally good at something. It could be school. Like, man, you're a genius. You're already a pro. You're praising something that they actually can't control, as opposed to, I saw how hard you worked. Your kid's the all-A student. Don't tell them how smart they are. Tell them, I see how hard you study and how much you want excellence. Praise the things that can change, that they can change. Praise the things that maybe won't be true when they go to college. You've got a kid who's excelling in high school. He's probably above everybody, but at some point he's going to get to a class that's going to stump him. And if all he's ever heard is, you're a genius, you're awesome, you're so smart, and not you work hard, you put in the effort, you're motivated, he's going to get to college and think, what's wrong with me? I must be a fraud because I can't do this. So I think it's important that we motivate and we encourage things that they can change. There's some times that we're going to need to coach our kids. I think coaching your kids is important. There's things that that they don't know, but don't give them everything. Give them 10% and see how they do. Just like my buddy's dad who was on the sideline yelling at him at every play, that wasn't helpful. But sometimes, hey, overall, do this. Overall, don't do this. And then send them out and let them fail. Let them readjust. Let them go out and try again and maybe fail again. That's a success. My daughter would not be successful this year if she hadn't had year 1 where she was getting blown out of the water, because I know they practice harder. They're more focused at practice. They realize that their coaches understand what they're talking about and actually run the plays and follow the drills. My daughter, we came back from vacation, and my daughter had a chance to skip school. We had been gone for a week and a half. We were all tired, and she's like, no, I need to go to school because I want to play tonight. It was important to her because she had put the work in. So encourage your kids, coach them, but don't give them everything. When your son or daughter fails, it is very easy for them to get frustrated, and frustration's okay. But we don't want them to be reacting to the situation. That is the thermometer. It is just, the heat's up and it registers emotion. They stress out and they register, that anger. Things pressure them, and that is reflected back into the world. You want them to be a thermostat where they control their output. And I know we're talking a lot about sports because it's awesome. You get fouled. The way you handle that really makes a difference. And as a parent, we have to model that. They need to see that even when things are frustrating, which is okay, that we have the ability to control our thoughts, control our emotions, and control our responses. We can be a thermostat. We can set that temperature as opposed to a thermometer that just reacts. And as a man, that can be really hard. I mean, have you ever been, you're working on the car and you drop the 10 millimeter socket somewhere in your engine, you can't find it, and every cuss word in your head comes in, you want to scream and hit something? That's being a thermometer. That is not being the thermostat. Model that for your kids. When they're frustrated, they get mad, they throw something, recognize, hey, being frustrated is okay. Learn how to take that emotion and put that into a positive nature. That's what parenting is, right? It's modeling what they need to do as they grow up. There's going to be moments in your child's lives, especially in sports, where they did all they could do. They worked harder than they ever imagined, and they still lose. Validate that feeling. Don't say, it's okay, it's just a game. It's just a game. No, it's not. When you're in high school, it's not just a game. And sometimes you do get reffed. Sometimes, the home court advantage or all these things. But I think the right statement is that, you know what? It hurts to when you work hard and still lose. That's the tough part of life. And that's an important lesson. Sometimes, despite your best effort, you are going to lose, even if you didn't deserve it. And that's life. That's the bounce back. And we can model that for them that, sometimes life is just out of control and it's okay. Get back to work. Don't let that harm you, but don't take away, it's just a game. Don't worry about it. No, it's okay to worry about it, but don't let it ruin your day. Remember, be the thermostat, set the temperature, be frustrated, be mad, decide to work harder, make a change. When I grew up, we were very proud that there weren't participation trophies. There was first, second, third, everybody else was a loser. And while I can see why people are annoyed that everybody gets an award, I think one of the traits in life is truly not quitting. And that is the participation award. If you've read any books about Navy SEALs and BUDS training, for Hell Week, it pretty much is who can just not quit. Because you can't win that, right? You can't win Hell Week. You start on day 1 and you get to day 5, and you don't sleep, and you get sandy, and you get tired, and you get cold, you get in the water, you get all these things. And the winning is just being there at the end. I'm a big believer in if your kid starts something, he should finish it. Unless it's unsafe, unethical, or immoral. Whatever it is. I don't care how hard it is. If you started it, you're going to finish it, because I think not quitting is the key to success. Just putting your nose down and going. I should say not quitting something you committed to. I think you should quit things that aren't important. If you're currently doing something in your life that's just not worth it, stop it. But if you committed to something, finish it. And by you finishing it, you're going to show them that they should finish things. Not quitting is important. I think participation trophies are huge because that's what life is, right? We can't win life. You just make commitments, and hopefully those commitments line up with your priorities. You execute that until you're done with your commitment. It's really easy to say, I just don't want to be married anymore. It's just hard. Being married is just hard. You committed. Follow through with your commitment. Don't quit. Now, again, if things are illegal, things are dangerous, there are reasons to quit things. But if you've committed, it shouldn't be easy to quit. It should feel terrible. And that's something that I think sports does great. You've committed to practice, go to practice. It's cold outside, go to practice. You got to wake up early, go to the gym, go to practice. Help your kids. And when they start, they're not going to know that. When your kids first start, they're not going to understand the struggle of, especially if they're losing. Like, to go to practice every day and to lose is pretty tough. My son's playing volleyball, and they played it in a tournament this week, and they got beat every single game. And it would have been easy to give up. Like, hey, the teams there were just much better than our team, and they're going to practice on Monday. They're going to go back at it, and that is so important. So as your kids go through life, and they're good at things and they're bad at things, I want to encourage you to be their ring man. Be the guy in the corner cheering them on. A little bit of instruction is okay, but they need a safe space. They have a coach. You're paying for that. Be more encouraging than harsh. It's okay that, share your insights, but they don't need that, right? They don't, and it's hard too, because I know some of you guys have put so much time, so much effort, so much money into their sport, into the thing that they really want to do, and to see them fail, and to see them lose, and to know that they could do better. There is a time for critique, but that should be minimum. that should be 10% of it where, hey, I feel like you could do better. And they need to be in the right spot. It's probably not on the way home. If they've got a crushing defeat, it's not for the car ride home. It's for breakfast the next day on the way to school. Hey, that was a rough loss last night. Do you think we could do better? Can I help you do something? Be in their corner, man. Be their hype man. Pump them up. Let them know that they can be successful. The way that they know they can be successful is if you're successful. I hope this podcast has helped you reach that level of success that you want so you can mirror that to them. I appreciate you listening. If you'd give me a review, I would really like that. It helps the show. As always, my name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title Podcast, and I will talk to you later. Bye.